Now that the behavior is correct, we have to revisit how the scripts are being stored and used. Right now, all the logic for this control has been directly embedded into the string page, which makes this not very reusable because we'd have to put this script into all the pages as well. Now we could take this script block and the stuff inside of it and create a JS file that has just this inside, and then include it whenever we render that control. We're going to do something similar to that, except we're going to first convert this into TypeScript. And the reason we're going to move it into TypeScript is primarily so that we have some compiler time safety around all this stuff. Also, it helps to manage your files when they're located more familiarly, at least to someone whose background is C#. I'm going to create a new script. It's going to be a TypeScript file. I'm going to call it Leafly Credentials View Model. So this is going to be our first class, and it's going to be the Leafly Credentials View Model. And we can move all these things into this new TypeScript file. So we're going to start with the functions. Everywhere that we're referring to the view model, we're actually referring to this view model, so we can say this. Now we need to declare that there are going to be properties app ID, app key, and has credentials on this view model. And the type of these properties is going to be some knockout type. So in order to get knockout definitions to appear in here, we're going to have to add the TypeScript definition files to our project. What that will do is add a typings folder with knockout in it, and this d.ts file is the definitions file for our TypeScript. So here we can specify app ID is going to be a knockout observable, where the value it's observing is going to be a string type. The app key is also going to be an observable that's a string type. And has credentials is going to be a knockout computed, meaning the value of this property is computed based on other values, and it's going to be a Boolean. In the constructor, we just say this dot app ID is an observable whose initial value is empty string. Same for the app key. Credentials becomes this is a pure computed who is based on the app ID and app key. One of the nice things about TypeScript is we can use lambda notation, which should be familiar to a lot of the C# developers. Using lambda notation also helps keep track of the proper context of this keyword. When we see the lambda, this is captured and will refer to this instance. So now we have a view model that when constructed will have an app ID and app key property that are both observable. We'll have a computed observable that will return true or false based on whether the credentials are set. And we have these two functions, save and load credentials. So back in our strings page, instead of specifying the view model as some object, we're actually going to new up one of the models we just created. First we have to reference it. So we're going to say script. Now you'll notice Studio could not suggest that to me because we're using TypeScript. In the project file itself, only the TypeScript file exists, but when we save, we can see it generates the JS file with the same beginning part of the name. So we can safely refer to it here. So the objects will say new Leafly credentials view model. And we're still going to apply the bindings and call load credentials when the page first loads. Alright, so now we can test out our refactoring. You see that the save button disables properly. And that they still save and load correctly. So at this point, we've completely refactored out our control into the scripts and view models and views to actually render the control.